Welcome to Two Balls and a Mic. We're here in our segment Two Balls and a Comic, and you can find our next guest featured on Burr Presents, The Ringers, co-host on What's the Odds with Steve Rannazzisi on the All Things Comedy Network. He's also a paid regular at the world famous Comedy Store and played second base for Ohio Northern. Please welcome Mr. Brenton Biddlecombe. How are you, man?
What's up, guys? I'm doing great. I'm wearing a shirt from when I was 6 years old because the Bills are back in the AFC Championship game for the first time since '93.
Since '93. So, wow. Were you born?
I was not born.
You
yet.
were not born.
I was not born yet.
I was born in 1992. So I didn't think I even knew what football was at that point. But clearly, Brenton, I mean, we were trying to find a Buffalo Bills fan.
Oh, yeah.
We want to go ahead and give the platform to anybody who is willing to talk to us, first of all. But again, who has those credentials of being a true Buffalo Bills fan, who has gone through it, who has felt the pain of all these years. Finally, you have the savior in Josh Allen and company, making it to a promised land. I mean, I know you're originally from Buffalo, so how did the fandom of Buffalo football come about?
That was completely my dad's fault. He was a fan day one. He used to go to the games when he was, younger than me, and he basically got me hooked. And I was very young when they were good. The last time they were good, when they had the 4 straight Super Bowls, I remember it's probably the earliest memory that I have is being in the room when they're just getting destroyed by the Cowboys in the Super Bowl in Pasadena, and just how everyone just felt awful. And that was like my first memory, was just feeling awful. And that was how they were Tom Brady ruined my childhood. I grew up just knowing them as losers. They had a few moments, but even the first game I ever went to was '96. It was Jim Kelly's last game, wild card against the Jaguars, and Kelly got knocked out, suffered a concussion, retired after the game, and we lost 30-27. I remember the Flutie game, the Music City Miracle.
Yep.
Start Rob Johnson instead of Doug Flutie. He got us here, but we're starting Johnson because we gave him the big contract. They go down big. Flutie comes in, brings them back, and then they can't kick the ball out of the end zone. They got to give them a chance, and Frank Wycheck makes the play, and we could have gone to the Super Bowl that year. And then just the drought, just never finding the quarterback. We had J.P. Lossman goes 6-0. They give him this monster contract, then he loses 7 straight. It's just been a long time. But what's been great about, just those years of suffering, the fan base has become so wild and crazy that,
yes.
We found ways to entertain ourselves while they were bad. Because, if you've ever been to Buffalo or you know anything about Buffalo, that whole city is the football team.
Yeah.
It's their identity.
Yeah.
More so than any team. Even, I would argue, even more so than Green Bay. We have chicken wings and we have the Bills, and that's it. And studies where the productivity goes down across the board when they lose, like that whole team's soul is attached to their football team.
And I've seen some atrocious, illegal, fun-looking stuff at Buffalo Bills tailgates. Some of the most outrageously just fucking lunatics out there. But you know what? It's all in good fun, and it always seems like a good time.
It's all in good fun, and should note that those same people that are throwing themselves through flaming tables and doing coke in the bathrooms are the same ones that are donating to charity and giving back to the community and helping people out.
That was great. What Bills Mafia technically is doing, what Bills fans are doing.
It's the nicest mafia I know of.
To the Lamar Jackson charity that he has after he got hurt. They've donated so much money, and Lamar Jackson even tweeted out like, "Wow, thank you so much, guys. Like, this means a lot."
Yeah, I
honestly,
gave my $8. I gave my $8 for that.
Nice.
I gave Andy Dalton money when he sent the Bills through to end the drought against the Ravens, and side note, thank God that we're donating to these charities of players that have very low numbers, because if a couple of 99s start needing some help, you're going to see a lot less donations.
No, and
But even Patricia Allen, Josh's grandmother who passed away, that fund is up over $1.5 million now.
and it's amazing. It's amazing. You know, again, you think of one thing is I mean, that too, you're saving yourself. A lot of these fans are saving themselves money for not going into live games and having a little bit extra cash. But it's good to see that people are using it for good. Like you were mentioning, Josh Allen's grandmother passed away, and just the donations from across the NFL, from across sports. And that's what, you know, it's the feel good aspect of this. But let me go ahead and turn this sour again. You guys lost a couple Super Bowls. So how are you cautiously optimistic? Because I'm guessing that's the feeling right now, other than elation, obviously. But are you worried? Are you nervous? Are you just happy? What's the sentiment?
Nervous, always worried, but very happy, and just happy that we're here, because it's been a long time. And this is the first one that I feel like I can actually enjoy, because I just turned 6 the last time I saw one of these games. So I vaguely remember it, but I don't really remember it. And my whole childhood was losing. So this has been a great change of pace. And I think, honestly, you know, I don't know if you know my background in fantasy football in that world, but I very much into breaking down the stats, and I've had a couple of big wins on DraftKings, and I placed this year in the finals. It was the 84th ranked player. So just looking at the numbers and trying to take my fandom out of this game, the Chiefs have a very beatable defense. And the fact that Mahomes isn't going to be 100%, concussion or not, he has turf toe.
Yeah, exactly.
So when you have turf toe and you can't plant your foot, we saw it against Cleveland. There were a couple of passes where he was underthrowing guys, and he's not going to be as mobile. And the Bills' defense can be beat on the ground. Looks like Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be back, and they stink against tight ends. And Kelsey is just far and away the best tight end. He's better than most receivers in football. So he's going to score points.
Amazing tight end receiving year. It's insane what he's doing this year.
Shattered the record.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, this is the one offense that can keep pace with the Chiefs. And our defense has actually played much better the last month since everyone's gotten healthy, and they're all healthy going into this week. So
That's huge.
I'm very optimistic we could go in there and we could upset the Chiefs and go on to the Super Bowl.
By the way, if you want to make money, obviously, you know, I've listened to a great podcast. What's the odds with Steve Rannazzisi? Steve, you know him from the league and other stuff, but he's a very boring bet player. If you want to make cash, you listen to Brenton. Like, this is what you do. If you want to make a big payday.
Put the asterisk up and let people know that I'm wrong 99% of the time. But
we don't.
One time, if I hit, that's payout.
Is that one time that matters? You mentioned, I mean, growing up hating Tom Brady, and he could be the potentially the QB you guys play in the Super Bowl.
Potentially.
How good would it feel to beat Tom Brady in a Super Bowl?
Well, this was the first year we've swept the Patriots, the Jets, and the Dolphins in the same season.
Yes.
And I can tell you, watching that second Patriots game where they were kicking the crap out of them, I cried a little.
Nice.
Watching that Dolphins game where it was all of our backups kicking the crap out of them, I was laughing my ass off. To beat Tom Brady and win a Super Bowl, and that's how we win the Super Bowl, is beating the best player who's ever played, would be unbelievable. I think, honestly, if we're picking games, they're going to be playing Aaron Rodgers if they beat the Chiefs. But to beat Tom Brady, that would be sweet, and it would make, you know, the last quarter century worth it.
And it's
one guy he was 32-3 against us as a Patriot. He's the one guy that I would want to beat more than anybody.
I don't think there's anything anybody
can relate to. Do you hate someone that much?
No, that's what I was thinking.
Fuck.
Like, do I hate anybody? I mean, I'm formerly a San Diego Charger fan, so you know, with that, beating Phillip Rivers, rest in peace, his career today, announcing his retirement. But you know, I don't think there's one athlete that just dominates and has not even real estate, like just colonized in the minds of sports fans, not just in one city, not just in Buffalo, but Miami and the Jets and the two other. I mean, Miami's building back thanks to Coach Flores, part of the Bill Belichick tree. But the Jets have been trash, and I don't see a light at the end of the tunnel here for right now, unless they get Deshaun Watson for some reason, which is a thing.
I was going to say that's their only chance, is if they make an aggressive move and the Texans just take that second pick and go with Justin Fields and start over.
Yeah, and even
That
then,
worries me though. The Dolphins could make the move with. I don't think Tua's any good. I thought that was a
Yeah.
terrible pick.
Mm-hmm.
And if the Dolphins can pull off sending Tua to Houston and only giving up a couple of picks and getting Deshaun Watson, then that makes me nervous about what the future in Buffalo looks like. As far as this should be our time to take over the division for 4 or 5 years. Yeah. If the Dolphins get Deshaun Watson, I mean, it comes down to who has the better defense, and right now the Dolphins have the better defense.
Definitely, and it's the golden window, man. Like this is it for Bills. I mean, maybe not competitive wise, but as far as like the best chance that you'll get in a while, this is it.
I came across a video the other day. It was a reaction of Bills fans of the draft when you guys got Josh Allen, and some seemed happy, some didn't seem so happy. What was your reaction to when you guys picked Josh Allen?
I was honestly upset.
Wow.
I mean, I'll admit it. I didn't think he was the guy. I bought into the narrative that he was just this big guy that had no accuracy, but he had a big arm. And to think how much he's developed, where his rookie year, his completion percentage, I think was around 59%. And this year it was almost 70. Like, it's just crazy how much better he's gotten. And then last year he had the issue with fumbling and he had all the turnovers, especially against Houston in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And this year, I think he had more rushing touchdowns than he had interceptions, or it was pretty close. I know he had more rushing touchdowns than we punted, which is insane. But, I mean, we got the right guy. Out of that draft, if you go back and look at it, as of right now, he's the guy that I would take over any of them, over Baker Mayfield, obviously Darnold. Was Josh Rosen was in that draft, right?
Yeah.
Josh Rosen. And then Lamar Jackson was later in the first round. We definitely got the guy, I think.
Yeah.
That's largely to Bowl, who thank you for not taking him and bringing him to LA. I thought that was a terrible hire, and I feel sorry for Chargers fans because you guys have the most talent on paper with the least amount of playoff appearances probably in the last 15 years.
No need to feel sorry for us Charger fans. There's no Charger fans here anymore. The Chargers can go absolutely just fuck themselves. Dean Spanos is terrible. Did you know that they didn't even make a statement right this morning when Phillip Rivers retired? I'm sorry, I'm hot about this and I'm emotional. Phillip Rivers, Hall of Fame? Yes, no?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Perfect. Got it.
Your organization, Spanos, is probably the worst owner in the history of football. Just for the sole reason that you had all this talent with a quarterback that could win and you never did. Like 2010, you guys led the NFL in rushing and passing offense, and you're the only team in the history of football to do that and not make the playoffs.
He wasted LaDainian Tomlinson's career.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
I mean,
one of the best running backs ever.
Yeah, and then shipped him off to the Jets. Pobrecito. The poor guy. Man. There was actually, when that year, here in San Diego, in comics and stuff, is a comic book store here. There was obviously, right? There was a action figure of LT in a Jets uniform that year, just sitting on the bench with a cup in his hand, looking disappointed. I wish I would have bought it because nobody believes that it exists, but it's that was his whole career as a Jet. But anyway, we're fast forward now. As you say, you have the golden child, the golden arm, and the golden legs, the golden man in Josh Allen. Added to this year is Stephon Diggs. You said that's the acquisition of the season.
Yeah, before the season started, we made predictions, and I went all in with Josh Allen. I said he's the best up and coming quarterback. Even when Lamar Jackson got MVP, I still said I would take Josh Allen over Lamar Jackson if I had a football team. And I said the defense is strong with the Bills, and you're giving Josh Allen Stephon Diggs.
Yeah,
who's a great weapon. He wasn't used correctly in the Vikings, and just shows to prove that he was probably the best trade.
Him the ball,
yeah,
he was still putting up numbers.
Yeah, exactly. And then probably the best trade that anyone made this season.
Yeah, and Minnesota, with that draft pick, they got Jefferson, so it wasn't a terrible trade on their end. But I would argue, and I have argued to anyone who will listen to me, that Aaron Rodgers will win the MVP because
Yes.
he's Aaron Rodgers and it's a popularity contest. And, his numbers are a little inflated because he's throwing 5-yard touchdown passes. But he'll get it because, he's one of the faces of the NFL. And Josh Allen has now kind of moved up to that second to finish probably in the MVP. I would argue Stephon Diggs deserves the MVP over everybody. They're never not going to give it to a quarterback.
Yeah.
But look at what that team has gone from last year. And then you add this one player who led the league in receptions and receiving yards. And I mean, he's taken them from being just a decent team to, they could win the Super Bowl. And he's the only person in the history of football to have at least 6 receptions in 17 games in 1 year. So every time he steps on the field, it's just automatic. He's going to catch 6 passes.
And he's played every single game.
Yeah, like
exactly.
best abilities availability, straight up, and that's the consistency that's built that connection with Josh Allen. Because we forget, I mean, you hear it when Tom Brady, again, the other quarterbacks get all the love, all the respect. Tom Brady didn't have an offseason with these new receivers, didn't have this. Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, I mean, they also went through the same protocols, same breaks, same everything.
You can see it from preseason. The Bills were just even tweeting highlight videos already preseason of Josh Allen throwing dimes to Diggs already, so they were ready.
Well, apparently they bonded when they found out that he was going to the Bills. They started playing video games together online and kind of formed this connection and a friendship. So they hit the ground running as soon as they could start throwing.
The beauty of Call of Duty, man.
It's amazing.
Hey.
One other receiver that people don't seem to talk a lot about, and clearly, I mean, if there's somebody that knows and sees the value of this person, it's Goldilocks. Cole Beasley, man. Cole Beasley has been lighting it up this season. He's been lighting it up, even when he was back in Dallas. I think that every good, successful playoff team sometimes has that token wide receiver. Wes Welker back with the Broncos, I think this might be it. And Cole Beasley has been instrumental in this offense.
Absolutely. And he also set career highs this year, I think, in receptions and yards. And Stephon Diggs was quoted a few weeks back saying Cole Beasley is always open. He's just a shifty guy, and he's that security blanket when it's, 3rd and 9 and Josh has to move the ball and they've doubled Diggs. Beasley's just sitting there right at the marker, and you just dump it to him, catches it every time, keep the play moving.
I love it, man. And all respect to obviously they're professionals for a reason, but some get more love than others. And, Cole Beasley is one of those aspects. It's great. Something that let me down personally is the running game. Not necessarily Bills, just because fantasy wise, I put a lot of stock in Devin Singletary, and then Zach Moss came up, and then I didn't know who to play, the hot hand. And that's what people are saying right now, that can be a weakness for the Bills is the run game. How do you see your run game moving in aside from Josh Allen?
Well, there isn't really much of a run game, but there isn't supposed to be. I think, the big thing that the Bills did and why they've been so successful, and maybe next year, there's going to be a little bit of a regression, is DeBold completely changed the offense. So, they were pretty much a 50-50 run-pass offense last year, and Singletary was used pretty heavily. And then when they drafted Zach Moss, people figured, okay, it's going to be a split, but they're going to be used pretty heavily. And he said, no, we're a passing team now, and they don't need to run the ball. They want everyone spread out. They want the defense, in a zone. They want people moving around. And then if Josh needs to, he's just going to take off, because you're not going to tackle a 6'5", 240-pound quarterback that's faster than you. I mean, it's the perfect offense. And again, that's a thing in the offseason. The other teams, they'll look at it, they'll figure out ways to slow it down, and the Bills will have to make adjustments. It's kind of like what the Ravens offense looked like last year, where it was all run and no one could stop it. The teams made the adjustments, and the Ravens had a huge regression. That's going to happen with Buffalo, assuming that they just try to run the same plays next year. But they don't really need to run the ball. You don't normally say that about a team in the playoffs with controlling the clock, but the Bills honestly do not need to run the ball to win. They could run the ball 5 times, throw it 50 times, and win by 2 touchdowns.
And this is the thing about this team. It's a completely different team from the Chiefs that played there's a completely different Bills team from the ones that they played Week 6 versus the Chiefs.
Yes.
Completely different. Obviously, not just different circumstances, but also, the chemistry. That's huge. And like we were talking about, just that Stephon Diggs, Allen connection is just it's special. But you are,
And don't sleep on John Brown.
Yes, John Brown as again, we sleep on him for a reason because obviously you have just 1A in Stephon Diggs and everybody else is kind of secondary, but they're there for a reason and clearly they've been doing the best that they can with the weapons that they have. But you have Kansas City, man. Kansas City is no joke. Andy Reid, balls of steel, everybody's favorite walrus. The amount of barbecue that man must eat. Like I wish I was him just so I can have all that free barbecue coming in. It's insane. What are your thoughts of Chiefs, man? Yeah.
Definitely the ballsiest coach to have your backup quarterback in a huge game and to run a play on 4th and 1 with that guy and not just run it up the middle, but to actually roll out and throw a pass. I mean, Andy Reid is Belichick's the greatest coach of all time. Andy Reid is the best coach right now. So he could figure out a way to beat the Bills with or without Mahomes at 100%. So that definitely makes me nervous. He knows how to utilize guys and he knows how to exploit the matchups. So you're probably going to see a heavy dose of running the ball and you're going to see a lot of targets to Kelsey this week because that's the Bills' weakness. And they're going to try to keep Josh Allen off the field by running the ball. But that being said, again, Chiefs defense is not what it has been. And when we played, the Chiefs haven't blown anyone out this year. We lost by 9 points. We were without our best cornerback, our second best cornerback, and our best linebacker. Yeah. So it's going to be a completely different game.
Yeah, I think turnovers are going to be key this game. If you guys manage to get a couple picks, that's going to be huge.
And they prove again. It's rare, and we were talking about this earlier this week on the podcast. It's rare that the best 4 teams in the league are the best 4 teams at the end, because especially this year with an extended wild card with a couple of extra teams thrown in there, still the best of the best somehow managed to get in at the end, and it's great when that does happen. But I think the game to watch and that's going to surprise a lot of people is this Chiefs-Bills game, because I think people are expecting this reigning, defending Super Bowl champs coming back in with or without Mahomes. It's still the Super Bowl champs. But if somehow the Bills can manage to beat them and move into the Super Bowl, man, I think you have America rooting for you guys.
It'll be
at this
a party
point.
in Buffalo for sure.
I don't think they stopped partying since last game.
Something that we've talked about is it would be the most Buffalo thing in the world to never win and then win during COVID when you can't gather and celebrate.
I don't think they'll stop anyone.
Let me tell you,
it won't stop them. I mean, they're camping out at the airport, 10,000 people for the team to land. So they're still going to celebrate. It'll be like a national holiday in the city of Buffalo every year.
I mean, as a Padres fan,
it sucks that you couldn't have the full stadium for those 2 playoff games because it had been 25 years since they hosted one.
That's a good thing. Do you think that made a difference? I mean, obviously 6,000 or whatever.
The players said it did. They said that the 6,700 sounded like 60,000. And I mean, watching the game and just turning the volume up, like you could hear people in there. It still kind of sounded, it wasn't as loud as like when they were piping in the fake noise in the empty stadiums, but you could hear them. So there was definitely a lot of energy.
All right. What is your prediction? What is if you're give me 2 predictions. Give me the Buffalo Bills prediction and then give me you're betting this weekend, right? Are you betting?
All right.
I'm hoping.
All right.
Bills
the objective.
Bills by 40.
Oh, love it.
now the logical prediction, just based on the numbers that I've done, the research and everything, I think we're going to take the under. It's a 53.5 point total. I think you got to go with the under because Kansas City's going to try to run the ball a lot and control the clock, which Baltimore did last week. Baltimore possessed the ball for I think it was around 38 minutes or so. So they controlled the clock running the ball, but obviously they couldn't score and Justin Tucker missed his kicks. So I think if you're betting, you take the under And I still like Buffalo with a not 100% Mahomes, and Buffalo, assuming their offense figures it out and plays at the level that they can, maybe getting a turnover or two. I think Buffalo takes it 30 to 23, and just take the half point under.
Wow. Yeah, I think I do agree. I think it will be under for sure, especially just the way we played out against the Ravens. I think everyone thought it was gonna be a high scoring game, and it was the complete opposite.
Shit the bed in the
I mean, that fucked more parlays for sure.
That win, I've seen a bunch of games in that stadium, and that wind swirls. So
Yeah,
when there's wind, I mean, always take the under. That wind's no joke there.
that is true. I do agree. Taking the under, and I do think the Bills are gonna win as well.
Yeah.
Do you happen to know the spread on that game?
It's 53.5 right now, but I think it could adjust based on the news out of Mahomes. He practiced in full today.
Still in protocol.
So if they say he's good to go, I'm sure it'll probably tick up a few points. If they say he's not going to play, it'll probably tick down. And right now, the Chiefs are 3-point favorites.
Yeah, I would definitely take those 3 points with the Bills for sure.
So take me down. This happens. The prediction happens. Bills, they take down the reigning defending Super Bowl champions, moving into the Super Bowl against, I don't know. Who would you rather face in that situation if you had to pick?
If I had to pick, I would want to play the Packers, who don't have as good of a defense. And you can exploit them. And Devontae Adams is a beast. He's probably the best receiver left in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But, I believe in Tre'Davious White, and they give him a little safety help over the top, and maybe you limit him to 80 yards and a touchdown. I think Josh Allen could beat that defense. Not that he can't beat Tampa Bay's. And Tampa Bay's strength is in the run, and we don't run the ball. And Tampa Bay's weakness is, throwing over the top. So it would be more sweet to beat Tom Brady. I just don't see Tampa Bay beating Green Bay at Lambeau Field in the snow.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that Buffalo is able to do their job, and I'm assuming we're going to be playing the Packers if we do.
That's actually what would benefit our podcast more because he was ride or die Josh Allen. We held a fantasy football league for the podcast with some of the listeners. We destroyed all of the listeners with Josh Allen. So thank you for that. But I also said that Green Bay and especially Aaron Rodgers is going to have a career season. He's going to be lights out because it pissed them off. A pissed off Rodgers is the best Rodgers on the field. If he gets scorned by his family, he's going to fucking put 5 up on you on Sunday. Like if there's any type of Danica Patrick or Olivia Munn leaves him, watch out. All right, it's going to be terrible for you. But I mean, I'm sorry, I had to choose the Chiefs. And I
no, it's fine. I get
it's fine, right?
You're talking about the best player in football, the best coach right now, and the defending Super Bowl champs at home. I get it. You're wrong.
Tony's just going with the money. He's going with that State Farm Super Bowl. State Farm's playing a huge impact on this. They're going to be throwing money in it.
That's what the NFL wants. They want their poster boys in it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the rematch of Super Bowl I in the 101st year of the NFL, even though the Super Bowl was 50 some years ago. Like that doesn't make sense. So what are you gonna do if the Bills make it to the promised land? Like how do you celebrate? Do you celebrate? Like do you just go balls out? Like drinks everywhere, Stone Cold Steve Austin, or just
we're gonna have a spread. Now it sucks that COVID's going on and we can't hang out with people, but me and my fiance will have a nice spread of food, and hopefully for her sake, the Bills don't get blown out, because I'll be a prick to be around if that happens.
And as you should, man. Like as you should. I think it's allowed. Every man and sports fan and anybody should be allowed to be in a shitty mood if your sports team just shits the bed in playoffs after so many years. And I don't think there's a fan base right now that deserves it more, just because they've been ride or die and they've stuck with their team. This is what I love about Buffalo. They stick with their team. It doesn't matter. There's people throwing pinto beans and mustard and ketchup on themselves. Like it's just a hoot over there.
Did you see from the Herd, Colin Cowherd and Nick Wright? Nick Wright had
that was
bet.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, that was such a stupid bet for him.
Are you saying what he said about how we should wait till Mahomes is 100% healthy to play?
Oh no! He had made a bet with Colin Cowherd.
Colon.
My
Sorry.
bad, I can't pronounce.
Like a semicolon.
He made a bet saying that the Bills wouldn't win one playoff game, let alone two. And now he had to pay the bet. He had to get like drenched in mustard and ketchup.
Yeah.
So he
Oh
paid
yeah,
his bet.
I did see that, but you saw Coward this last week said that the NFL should delay the AFC Championship game until Mahomes is 100%
yeah,
That's
healthy.
that's the stupidest
Yeah.
thing anyone's ever said.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like,
And that was
obviously,
after Kurt Warner said that every game should be played indoors in the postseason after the Ravens couldn't move the ball because they couldn't throw it in that wind.
yeah, I mean,
Like Josh Allen wasn't playing in the same conditions.
No.
exactly. A business decision for the NFL. Obviously, like there is those poster childs that you want, and I think the Bills are just the ugly duckling in this situation, and I think that's what makes them. You know, I think they're the Browns of this round in that everybody's pretty much rooting for them. There's zero.
They're the
repercussions.
underdog.
They're the underdogs, 100%. And I hope. Okay, that was the one question. If they win, what if they win the Super Bowl? You're gonna have a nice little spread. What if they make it? What if they make it? Are you gonna?
I would again. I'd love to see him make it because I was too young to really appreciate it the last time. And the last time they did it, they got blown out by the Cowboys. The only redeeming thing from that Super Bowl was Don Beebe running down Let and getting that fumble. So, win or lose, if they made it to the Super Bowl, I would enjoy it. I would really try to take it all in and just be happy with the fact that I'm watching a game in February with my team and you know it could be worse. They could be as bad as they were 4 years ago.
It can very much be worse. I have since transitioned into the Philadelphia Eagles since there's no team here. Hey, look. All right, look. No.
Just
I
the worst. That whole thing. He dismantled that team because they were going to have a dynasty after the Super Bowl. But you know what his problem was? He got this attitude where he was like, I don't want to listen to anybody and give me the Bill O'Brien treatment where I get to make all these decisions and you have no say in anything I do. And he ruins Carson Wentz.
Yep.
He doesn't give him an offensive line. He doesn't use Miles Sanders, who's by far the best player on that team. He goes and drafts Jalen Hurts after you sign Carson Wentz to this monster deal. Then you bench Carson Wentz on this monster deal, start Jalen Hurts. And then in the last game, when Jalen Hurts has the momentum and has the locker room and Eagles fans think they have their guy, he switches him out for some practice squad bum
Hey,
that
Nate,
he promised playing time to.
go.
And loses the entire locker room.
Oh man.
In record time. Like in record time. This was the longest Super Bowl hangover I've ever seen from any franchise because they didn't know how to handle it. I mean,
it was like, that scene in Rudy where they're all laying down their jerseys going, I'm not playing in this room. It's like the opposite of that, where they're like, why the fuck would you put that guy in? He's like, well, I'm still going to put him in.
And that's what happens. Hopefully now, that's the thing with this quarterback carousel. Who knows? Wentz with Rivers retiring, everybody wants him to go to the Colts. It'd be the perfect thing. He'd get sure. But I think the best hire right now to replace Doug Peterson was Doug Peterson. Like that's it. If we really wanted to look for somebody revolutionary and whatnot, but that's not happening. Carson Wentz deserves to stay just because of the money that they paid him. If he chooses to just waive that off and go somewhere else, that's his decision. But I don't know. I like Carson Wentz, man, and it's mental what he's got.
I think he's a good quarterback. I still think he's a good quarterback. I think it was a combination of bad play calling and no offensive line. And then, after a few games of being the guy who got hit more than anybody, he started making bad decisions because he felt like he didn't have the time to do anything. So he started playing really bad down the stretch. And I know Eagles fans are, what have you done for me lately? And everyone wants his head, but he's still better than half the quarterbacks that are out there. And he can win you games.
100%.
So what should the Bills do in order to avoid something like if they were to win the Super Bowl, and then after that, what's the next move? What's the right move to do to avoid anything happening, kind of like what's happening to the Eagles?
I mean, the biggest thing is everyone has to be unified and everyone has to have the same goal. And I think the Eagles let Peterson get too much of an ego and made him think he was Mr. Philadelphia. So he started making bad decisions and wasn't held accountable. I think if the Bills win the Super Bowl, they're in a good space where they have a few guys that'll be free agents next year, but they have the cap space that they could sign the key players, and they have, a few draft picks. We just re-signed our GM for 4 years. They've re-signed McDermott, and their offensive coordinator has said he's staying on through 2021, so he's not going anywhere. Leslie Frazier, our defensive coordinator, may still get job offers, but it looks like all those positions are going to be filled before any of the teams even talk to him. So that ecosystem's going to be intact, and as long as people stay healthy, I think Josh has more to prove, and he's just going to get even better next year.
Yeah,
he's going to be the guy. You're going to turn on the TV, and he's going to be in all the Progressive ads and all the State Farm ads, and they're going to start to shift to make the Bills more mainstream.
Yeah,
I mean, we had 3 or 4 primetime games this year, and we had more primetime games this year than we probably had in the last decade.
That's very true. One of the best in recent memory, best Bills games that I can remember was a San Diego Charger Bills game where the electricity went out and nobody saw it. Like from what I hear, that was the peak of Bills for a time being.
I was at the Nathan Peterman game in LA. I got tickets and I went when it was at the soccer stadium and watched Peterman throw 5 picks in the first half.
Jesus.
And the Chargers just curb stomp us. And, it was such a small, I don't know if you ever went to a Chargers game there, but it's like 15,000 people. It feels like a high school stadium. And we were sitting behind the Bills, bench and people were just yelling for Tyrod Taylor to come in and they could hear us. Like, it was 80% Bills fans and they could hear us.
Wow.
So it was a great experience to see a game where it felt like you were, right there, right next to the guys. But I mean, we were done after the 3rd series, and I think you guys put up like 50 points or something. We had like maybe 15, 16 points. It's just awful game to watch, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, it was the StubHub is, well, Jesus, it's a soccer stadium. Like even in soccer standards, it's a pathetic stadium. So having an NFL franchise there, that doesn't really work out. Even though now I guess it was worth the wait if you want to, rent out a stadium, I guess. So obviously, in this time, in this year, 2021, in 2020, COVID happened, and your profession being a stand-up comedian, took a hit. I would assume a little bit, but it's nothing that I think that you're foreign to. If it came to performing in front of nobody, I believe that you also performed in front of nobody at the Belly Room or at the world famous Comedy Store at Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Okay.
Going back, like the first time I performed on Potluck, which is the open mic, in 2010, it was the same night as the Super Bowl. And they used to have Potluck on Sundays. So during the NFL season, there was like no one there. And literally because the Super Bowl was on, there's a bar out front with a TV. And, you'd have a dozen comics. Either they were on the list about to go up or they would just be in there watching typically. But because the Super Bowl was on, there was literally no one in the room. And I go up like in the first 3. So even the guy who was keeping time and handled the light in the cover booth, he was down at the bottom of the steps watching the game.
Damn.
The host brought me up. I went up and I did 3 minutes to literally no one.
I mean,
Wow.
That's probably the best set I've ever had.
I mean, that just takes balls, man. Like
That's what that place does to you, though. I mean, I do now the late night spots. Shows that start at 9, you go on at 1:30 in the morning. Show is sold out at 9 o'clock, 1:30. There's a dozen people who have heard 6 hours of comedy. They're drunk. The whole point of that place is to break you down and then build you back up and give you this thick skin so that, you bomb in the original room at the Comedy Store and you absolutely murder everywhere else you go. Like there's no situation, no heckler, no stage that intimidates you, and it just makes you a better comic.
So how is the La Jolla Comedy Store compare for comics? Obviously paid regular. I read that it's probably where you found your comedic voice in a sense to move into one-liners into a little bit more developed stories.
I love that room is special. and it's very hard not to kill there. It's just the way it's set up, the acoustics. I don't know what it is. The people down there like to laugh, and there's a reason why a lot of comics have recorded albums there. The room just sounds good. They have Lou, the one-man band, who just adds this atmosphere, and the employees, everybody who works down there is super cool, and it's just a fun weekend. And they put you up in this comedy condo. Literally millions of stories about how dirty and awful comedy condos are. The one in La Jolla is on the beach. So you wake up in the morning, you walk out on your deck, and there's the beach. And it's clean. They just redid it in the last few years. That is one of the best rooms and one of the most fun rooms. And I was down there, it was probably 6-7 years ago, when I just thought, oh, well, I was doing one-liners my whole career for like the first 4 years. And I had this story. So I was like, I'll just try this at the end, and it worked. And I realized how much better it was to tell a 3-minute story and get the same amount of laughs than trying to write 30 jokes. And it really shifted my style and helped me find my voice. And I love that room. It's the best. And you guys, I don't know what the difference is between LA and San Diego, but the burritos, it's not even comparable.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I mean,
I don't
clearly
know why
experts here.
It's a 3-hour drive. Why can't you just figure out what they're doing down in San Diego and bring that back up here? It's just like night and day different.
It's insane because my girlfriend used to be in UCLA, and I'd be like, okay, late night snacks, like this. Where's your best Mexican food? Oh, it's so and so's. Absolute dog shit, like absolute crap. The shittiest burrito place here in San Diego, just miles, leagues ahead of LA or anywhere else in the world.
There is good Mexican food, like there's good tacos up here, but the burritos, it's like, don't even bother.
No, San Diego's all about its burritos, man.
I mean, have you made the trek down to Tijuana and down in Mexico and explored? I know, obviously, you're friends with Mr. Tijuana himself, Bobby Lee.
I admit that I've lived now in Southern California for 11 years, and I've not gone down to Mexico once.
Believe it or not, the burritos over there, they're not even like the ones in San Diego.
Yeah, no. You know what burritos actually are? Yeah.
Yeah, burritos are literally like this thick.
Like prolapse size or healthy.
Yeah, and they cost like $1.
Yeah, those are real burritos. Like your forearm burritos that there's here in the States is what caused this.
That's a Mexican-American food. It's not even Mexican food. It's Mexican-American food. That's the thing.
Like tortillas the size of a burrito feeds an entire family for a week. and you still have some left as of blankets because Jesus Christ. Like it was the greatest thing when I came over because I used to live in TJ. I used to live in Mexico. And we have regular sized burritos and tacos. And over here is like, oh, mijo, you want some burritos? Yes, I'll take 2. We'll take 1. And then here's you go. Oh, man. But
those
I
two
love it down there. You guys, if I didn't do stand up and I didn't need to be here or felt like I needed to be here with my job at All Things Comedy, and then when I worked at the Comedy Store before, like if I had money and just retired, I would probably go down to San Diego. It's just an awesome city.
I mean, so many people love it here, and that's what I say is we were fortunate to be born around here in these areas, and people work their entire lives to move over here, and we have it good. But next time you're down here, burritos on us. Do you have a favorite burrito spot, or you just go? I know
Don Carlos for sure.
Nice.
Don Carlos.
Oh man, so many like it's just
so
I'm hungry
places,
right
so
now,
places,
man. It's just so many burritos. Just it's a Rolodex of Mexican spots. But definitely want to talk about a little bit of the Dodgers winning the World Series, your Dodgers, because the great Brody Stevens also go for it.
Yeah. So do you still follow baseball like as intensely as before? I mean, I started
not as intensely as before.
Yeah.
I have been watching the Dodgers a lot more because my fiance is from SoCal, and so she's a big Dodgers fan, and her dad and the Lakers as well.
I'm sorry.
So I have watched more Dodgers, especially around the playoffs, than I have in the past. But I mean, I kind of shifted into comedy right after I finished playing baseball. Like I decided to quit and dropped out of school and transferred to a community college to start doing stand-up. And once I did that, like baseball was kind of a fun thing that I would watch when it was on, but it kind of just was in the rear view. And then I got into fantasy football, and football became like the thing. And, I can name bench players and practice squad players on every team, but I couldn't tell you who's starting at second base for most baseball teams.
Yeah, because
but I enjoy it. I still love the sport, and I think playoff baseball is better than just about anything. I was happy that the Dodgers won, especially with Brody Stevens' cutout being in the stadium, and
that was special.
Missing him, and I was at the Comedy Store one night where he came in. It was right after Kershaw had signed his huge contract, and he came in with a couple of players, and they came specifically to see Brody. He was buddies with them, and he was on stage just making them laugh, and then telling Clayton, like, you just signed this contract. You're so powerful now. Like, if you told me, Brody, I'll give you $1 million to never do stand up again, I would do that, and I know you're good for it.
Oh man,
I was very happy that they won for him, because he was great baseball fan, and we had some projects that were in the works with him that would have been in relation with baseball. That we were just putting the finishing touches on. We'd gotten funding for, and I really wish that we would have been able to shoot a few more things with him before he was gone.
100%. People listening, if you guys haven't checked out any of Brody Stevens' comedy, just absolutely murderous laughter is going to come out of you. And check him out on The Hangover. You can always pop in The Hangover. But
there's a great special that he did that you can find on Amazon. It's from the Comedy Store. I believe it's called Brody Stevens Live in the Main Room. And he did this thing where he would close every show. He would go on last. So again, he'd go on 4 hours into the show, 5 hours into the show in the main room. And he would then perform for like 90 minutes, sometimes 2.5 hours. And he did this the first time because, in LA, you're typically just getting 15-minute spots. And he was actually going to perform down in La Jolla, and he hadn't done an hour in years. So he was nervous. So the talent coordinator was like, well, go on at the end and do as long as you want. And he did it. He loved it. He performed to, the 20 people that were there, and then went and did La Jolla. And when he came back up, he's like, I don't want to do regular spots anymore. I want this spot. This is my spot now. And it sort of evolved into this thing where people were starting to show up just at the end of the night just to watch his set. And he owned the room. He was so funny, completely original, and he was a really, really good person.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you're a fan of comedy, or if you like the Comedy Store or the history of that place, go watch his special and look up some of his stuff. He's just, he's somebody that could have been way higher than the level that he was already at, and every comic loved him.
Yeah, and
absolutely a comic.
Adored by everybody that I've seen interact. Nothing but kind words about him. Brody Stevens Live from the Main Room, I believe, is the one that you're talking about on Amazon.
Yeah. Now this was unique because normally when you shoot, and I mean I've worked at All Things Comedy for a few years, so we've shot a few hour specials, and typically you have a warm-up guy go out and just get the crowd going, like, hey, you're here to see this person. You're going to give a lot of energy. You're going to laugh even more when you think it's funny. You're going to clap. You're going to go crazy. Then you have a guy come out and do 10 minutes, just to get the crowd more warmed up. The warm-up guy comes back out and says, let's all get crazy. And then the guy comes out and does their hour. With Brody, for this special, he wanted it to be authentic to his late night spot. So he had 8 comics open before him. So there was 2.5 hours of show before he even went out there. Wow. And everyone who was there, the audience, they didn't know he was shooting a special. Oh. They thought they were just seeing a show. So there were, the signs that say, hey, you're being recorded tonight. If you're not okay with that, leave. So people were literally like getting up and leaving. The room's not full. There's a lot of people still there, but there are people that are leaving, like even during his set. And then that becomes part of his show. And it is the most authentic special I think anyone's ever shot, because there's nothing fake about it. There was no warm up. There was no, show business type stuff. It was a real show that they just recorded, and he was the star of it.
And again, cannot say enough. Go check it out, Brody Stevens.
I'm definitely gonna go watch it.
But another comic that you're close with, I'd say, is the great Bill Burr, who has appeared on The Mandalorian. How weird is that? Like, somebody in Star Wars, like
Yeah, I mean, I obviously grew up a huge Star Wars fan, and if you listen to his podcast, he did not.
Yes, he did not.
Yeah.
Still makes fun of Star Wars fans, but because he was doing F is for Family and he connected with Favreau, Favreau loved the fact that he didn't like Star Wars and wrote him this, the part just because he thought it would be funny. And Bill was like, oh, I don't know, I don't want to like sell out and have all these people saying, oh, you hated Star Wars, now you're in. And he's like, no, trust me, this is going to be great. And I mean, he's a good actor. He's knocked it out of the park. His character is perfect for him. He's playing himself basically. But go and watch. He was just on this Tonight Show, and he was talking about. Jimmy brought up that there are people that are upset that he has a Boston accent, and his response to it is the most perfect Bill Burr response to Star Wars nerds that you could imagine. I love that he's doing it. I love that he's branched out and he's acting. King of Staten Island, he was great in that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's the best stand-up, maybe next to Chappelle. I think it just depends on who put out the last special, and that's who's on top. But the fact that he's branching out and doing all these other things while still, helping grow this company, All Things Comedy, and helping out comics, it's amazing.
No, he's doing a great job with that.
Yeah, so just going back a little bit to The Mandalorian, I mean, this thing's doing pretty cool things with it. How excited are you for that Kenobi show?
I mean, Disney buying it at first seemed like it was going to be a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you realize over the years that like, oh no, this just means that everything that we ever imagined, every storyline, every plot, like Boba Fett coming back from the dead, that just means that they're going to go and tap into that now and get the best people. So it isn't going to be just one guy writing. It's going to be, they're going to assemble the all-star team of writers and the best in the business that, work behind the camera and everything and get the best actors. I'm literally, I can't wait for, it doesn't matter what it is. I'm excited for everything that they're going to put out. And I think it's like a dozen series or 15 series or something that are going to come out over the next 5 years. Like, bring it on. I love it.
I'm curious, are you a Marvel fan?
I didn't read comic books growing up.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think it has made me more of a Marvel fan.
Interesting.
Because I don't critique the movies. I think they're all great.
Okay.
And I got a friend who's really into comic books, and he'll give me his honest opinion, and we'll watch the same movie and I'll go, oh, that was awful. I don't ever want to. They ruined that. I'll be like, what are you talking about? That was fun. So I like being an ignorant Marvel fan.
Have you checked
all
out
those
WandaVision?
characters that you probably grew up reading about in the comic books? I'm seeing them for the first time, and I think it's wonderful.
Have you gotten a chance to check out WandaVision?
I have not, but I read the reviews that it seems like it's weird as hell. So
I personally didn't like it, but you did.
point-
See, I came into the United States in 4th grade not knowing a lick of English, and as you can see or hear, there's not a tinge of accent in my voice because I'd like to watch the 1950s Bewitched. I loved the Genie Show and all that shit. Like, and I Love Lucy. I love all those shows. Not that I talk like, man, you see, man, but it's I love all those shows, and so it's an homage to that type of era. And you have to watch the second episode. There's the reason they put 2 episodes. Okay, you just didn't understand it. It's just over your head.
I couldn't.
No, but
I mean, I'm going to watch it. I kind of like reading the reviews and hearing that people didn't like it and they think it's weird, and I think that'll make me like it more.
That makes sense.
100%. But definitely, I think that it's, media is in a fantastic place right now. Look, we started this is our garage, and we're able to do projects like this and be able to talk with fantastic guests like yourselves, man. But give us one last prediction for the Super Bowl with the Bills in it, and give us a Super Bowl score.
It's going to be the Bills-Packers, and the Bills are going to win it 27-24.
God, man,
Well, that's such a good game.
I hope
I hope
you guys
you're right.
win it.
I hope you're right, 'cause that's
hope
such a good game.
for like the soul of America to just erupt and enjoy with Buffalo and just pour side condiments on themselves. But really appreciate your time, Brenton. You want to let everybody know any projects or where they can go ahead and find you?
Well, until comedy comes back, just listen to the What's the Odds podcast Wednesdays on All Things Comedy, and follow me on social media at BB Combs, and hopefully once the clubs open back up, come see me live.
100%. Really appreciate it. Go ahead and stick around. We'll do a little follow-up, and thank you. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks, guys.